Hey everyone, this is Tia, and I'll be sitting in for the illustrious Danette Edwards, who is the founder of Corona Days Professional Development, also known as CDPD. Today, I am happy to host, as part of CDPD's Professionals of Excellence series, Ms. Kimberlynn Hunter. And I'm going to read her bio, tell you a little bit about her, and then she's going to join us. So about Kimberlynn, Kimberlynn is a change management professional who helps organizations remove impediments to optimal performance, inefficient rules or processes, groupthink, and apathy. As a leader, Kimberlynn optimism is one of her main strengths, excelling at painting the picture of what could be through storytelling. Ambiguity, uncertainty, risk, none of these bother Kimberlynn much. Intrigued by the unfamiliar and embracing change as opportunity for growth. Kimberlynn is also a recent SMU MBA graduate, people developer, innovator, visionary, storyteller, global and strategic leader with more than 20 years military service. So let's go ahead and welcome Ms. Kimberlynn Hunter. Welcome, Kimberlynn.
Thank you for having me, Tia, and everyone. It's great to be here today. So I'm excited to speak to everyone. I just wanted to share a little bit of tips that I have and some background stories on planning and how it can be practically used in your life and also in the workplace. So that's what I wanted to discuss today. I don't know if you want to hear about I'm trying not to so much dwell on the military part, but most of my skills are learned from the military. So I've done some really large movements, moving people and equipment all around the world and planning it, and from all different levels, tactical, operational, and strategic. And I really like policy, and I like to get in the weeds, and when things need to start or be shifted, those are the things I like to do. So I went to SMU, got my MBA, and now I'm in a hiatus until I start work in a couple of months.
All right, fantastic. And Kimberlynn, listen, you feel free to talk about your military career, anything you want to talk about. This is your time.
Yes. Well, we'll get started with the slideshow then.
Okay.
Okay, so what I wanted when I came up with the title, Practical Planning Enhances Performance. Yeah, that's the title. And what I want everyone to get from this is, planning can be as small as your daily to-do list, and it can be, several pages and months long for years out. But if you get in a planning mindset, it equips you with some better skill sets. And since we're in this professional development CDPD, everyone's coming here getting the great advice. And I'm like, well, this is what I can share with you to help you. And the people that I like working most with are early career professionals, early to mid-career, because I have learned so many things that I wish people had been able to impart in me. And so this was a planning learning session. However, it's more applicable to the overall what you do at work. So we're going to talk about planning, but I'm giving you tips that I think will help if you're an entrepreneur, if you're just looking for a job, if you're getting a new job, or you want to move from that middle manager up into the executive levels. These are some tips to plan the way you move around in the workplace. You can plan work, you can plan for work, and you can plan for your career progression. And so we'll move to the next slide, please. So if you're looking at this slide, you always hear people say, some people are playing chess and some people are playing checkers. And it's very true. And a lot of things that have been driving me, where I've been getting more motivation to do the work that I want to do. This is ancillary to my actual job of change management. That part is that's what it's going to be. But when I'm helping people and I'm developing others, I see that when you come into the workplace and you don't have the same networks, and that is no fault of your own, but we're not even starting or we're not even playing the same game. And a lot of people might even be left out of the game. So I just read this Harvard Business Review article right when I was planning for today. And it was talking about, there's this thing called the frozen middle. So frozen middle, a lot of times, minority groups, different groups of people, sometimes you're disabled, whatever different affinity groups, they will get in the workplace oh, we hired so many people, but can't keep them. So a lot of that is lack of development. And then someone did a study, and what they noticed, put people in 3 different groups. And that first group of people are the ones that like you have the first stage, the middle stage, and then the senior executive, or on your way to executive. Initially, workplaces tend to pick the people who look like them, promote those people, and a lot of times the minority people will not be paid attention to. But what they noticed was, if minority groups have mentors and they have people to help them and they plot out their own way, they don't get promoted in the same space as the ones who were initially chosen, even if they had the same skill set. But by having done all this ancillary planning and looking out for their career, they actually, once they got the promotion, they took off and they were further ahead. So this is what I think will help everyone to get the mindset of how you can go into a workplace with intention, or set up your business with intention, or look for your job with intention, or be better at home with intention. And that's what planning will help you do. Next slide. So this is just, the long definition of planning. I have to sit here and, belabor planning. But there are people at work who are actual planners. I was actually one of those people before. And then there are people at work who are planning all the time other things that go into the larger organization's objectives and goals. And we can see, I think, from the pandemic, that some things within our country, some things within our jobs, obviously we didn't know the impact of a pandemic, but we saw the impact of not being able to adjust. And so to me, planning, if you plan properly and you plan the right way, it allows you the ability to adjust. You can, you have the skills to be able to make necessary moves, even if your plan is not totally specific to what it is you're going to be doing. Planning as you go along, it gets your wheels moving. It gets people motivated. It gets people in the workplace knowing that this is what we have to do if something's going on. So I like productivity. I like to plan. I like to see my plan, come together and work with other people. Next slide, please. Okay, so there are a lot of skills that middle managers should have, and planning. So if you go in the workplace and you say, okay, I have a new job and I left company A, I'm going to company B, and it didn't seem like anyone was looking at me for promotion. So how can I make it through here? What can I do differently than I did at the last company? So you should come to work, and I would say, you have a plan. And that plan should include things like meeting people in the workplace. Everyone, you want to know everyone in the workplace, because they say it's who you know, but the way things are, the way your career progresses and the way you are able to move around in professionally is a lot of times by who knows you. So if I know people, but if they don't know me or they're not aware of my skill sets and what I can do, then it's not going to really get me that far, right? So you want to position yourself. And there seems to be, I've seen this with women that I've talked to. I see this sometimes with, different ethnic groups. We go to work and we're all excited and we finally gotten our degree, or we start our company, whatever it is we're doing. And no one's promoting us and no one's helping us and no one's sending us anywhere. And kind of think that's the way it should be. And I agree, but I believe, and what tends to happen is you may need to manage your own career. And with managing your own career, you make your appointments to get on your supervisor's calendar so that they can talk to you about your performance as you're going, and you can correct. So you can see if they're satisfied, if you're meeting benchmarks, if they have benchmarks to even tell you. If you're in a position where you're not being developed properly, which happens, quite a bit, sometimes people don't develop because leaders are thrust into positions and they're not prepared yet. And sometimes that people don't really know how to develop you. And then there's always the case where they're not really interested. And I like to tell people, if we look at things from a positive perspective, your leaders or your organization may ignore you, but a lot of times it's more affinity bias. They're doing that because they're more like the people around them. But if you've got to find a way to show them your value, everyone has to have value. You have your initial value as a person, but then you've got to show where the things that you do, your performance, the way you interact with people, the way you make your job meet in with the goals and objectives of the organization will add value to the company. When you're in your employee research groups or different things that you're in, employee resource groups, a lot of times we want to have a good time in the employee resource group, and that's fine too. But we always have to remember that when you're in work, somebody's at your company, it's all about the revenue and pushing that company forward. So it's okay to have a good time, but people want to work with people who help them make money. They always like it when people help them make money. And if you can find ways to make things better, then you will have a better career. So you want to go in the workplace, you want to find a way to get to know more people, because if you expand your reach in the organization or across, not even organizations, you could do it within your career field. If you join different professional groups, when you establish your reputation, everyone's, now we're calling it our personal brand. You got to find out who the people are who influence. So as I'm telling you about planning, the plan that I want people to make is a plan of how to approach the way they go to work, the way they run their companies, the way you move in the world, the way you set your week up, all of these things, because when you plan, it just makes other things fall in place. And so when you have a person who comes to work and they're really prepared and people are noticing that you're doing well and you're saying, well, I want a promotion, you have to get yourself developed. Find out if there's development opportunities, seek out other developmental opportunities. And then there's something to be aware of. A lot of times in the workplace, in the research that I was doing and what I know to be true, certain people get put in the roles that lead to promotion and other people get put in the roles that kind of don't go very far. And that's where that revenue, understanding what you're doing, how it's going to impact the company or the organization that you're in. And then you can understand and determine if the things that you've been asked or tasked to do are beneficial to you as you are related to your peer group or others in the organization. They call one set the glamorous jobs, and those are the people who are always in front of the leadership. They're always, just getting everything kind of handed to them. And then the other group is kind of called more like housekeeping jobs. Go get the coffee. I need you to take the notes. I want you to plan the party. Now, those things are not bad, but that tends to be what is assigned to minorities and what is assigned to women and what is assigned to quiet people and people who are maybe disabled or differently abled. So what we're trying to do here, my goal is I want to have enough competent people in the workplace understanding the game. We're on that chessboard and we're moving around, and then you meet the leadership and you'll get enough influence to help bring more people into the company, because somebody's got to stay in corporate America to help us for the people who actually work in corporate America, right? So we need allies. We need to build a pipeline. We need to show how proficient we are and that we're capable and that we're able and our networks are powerful and the people that we know, they bring a lot to the table, but they also are business people and consumers in that. So whatever your product is or whatever your role is, it can reach other people. The one thing that's difficult so I'm going all the way around. I did the planning and this middle management slide. This is a time, or when you're changing jobs, you're getting a new job. It's almost like a chance to recreate yourself, but then you also have to change your mindset. And so your mindset has to shift from just the doer and just the manager to managing more people, managing more areas, also pushing strategy. And then that's where your planning comes in, because you got to know how to delegate. Next slide. So I've kind of run through this kind of fast. I didn't think it would be so fast. But so when it comes to how you're going to set up a plan, when there's, you got long range planning, as it says on the slide, short term, and contingency. Contingency planning is at the house. Do you have an emergency kit, that you've got your food and your water and all the things at the house, so that when the lights go out, you've got batteries, or if there's a hurricane, whatever happens, an emergency, you've got that there. The contingency is important even in a workplace. The thing about a contingency is a lot of times you don't know what you're planning for, but what you're planning for is not as important as why you're planning. We want to plan so that we get our brains going. You get a little bit more energized. You get to understand the bigger picture. If you don't understand how you fit into your organization and the mission that the organization has, or if it's not really clear, then a lot of times we just go into work, and we want to do more than just go to work, even if you're not going to stay at that place for long. And then when you build your own companies and you set up your processes, you want to make them in a way that they seem reasonable and feasible, and that they are seamless and work together. But then you also want good people working for you to help you shift and plan so that you can go forward. The thing about planning is, if you don't have a plan, then you're kind of just, flying by the seat. So one of the plans that I had to create, we are about 500 people, and it was a deployment to Afghanistan. And I was an administrative leader in the sense that I was the one who, all the different reports and, the training, everything that was like that the unit has to report to say that we're ready to deploy and that we're able to deploy, and how many people we have, and, who's here and who's there. That was my responsibility. So it's a lot personnel, it's a lot training, it's a whole lot logistics and supply. It's a little bit counselor, but it's definitely planning. And so when we went to Afghanistan, I kind of fell in on some plans that were already there. And also I joined a little bit late. So it was a little bit rocky. I have a whole year while I'm here. And I decided, I don't really want to go home the same way that we came. And I looked around and I said, okay, how long do I think I need to find out like what the requirements are. We're not talking about project planning, but if you have PMP understanding, this is a lot of the similarities. What are the requirements? The backwards planning. I start with the end in mind. We're going to get on the plane. These things have to get on a certain ship. These things have to go early. These things can't go with those things. Those things need people to fly with them. So worked this whole thing out, created a plan, and there was probably 3 reasons I need to make the plan. 1, the plan just needed to be there so we could go home. 2, I needed extra people because my staff, even though I had the signature authority for these 500 people, most of them didn't work for me. I only had like 12 that worked for me. So I have to convince my boss that, other people need to volunteer their people so that they can help us. And then it gives everybody understanding, when you're at work, you want to know what's going on. So the sooner I made the plan, the better the plan is, the easier it is for everyone else. So if you're on the deployment and you want to go home, when are we packing our stuff? When can I send my XYZ? How long is it going to take for it to get there? I'm moving as soon as we get back. How can I get my things? These are all different contingencies for the plan. And by having the plan, it allows me to sell it. So even when you get to your workplaces and you want to make yourself known as someone who's competent and who's, in strategy and understanding what's going on, and you're doing parallel planning with your peers and different groups and you're learning from everyone, then you want to be able, if you see a gap, you're able to present a plan or a way to correct the gap to whomever. And if you can do that, some people get jobs created for them. Some people get snatched by other companies. There's a lot of possibilities. So back to the deployment plan. We got it together and it went really well. I mean, it went extremely well. But then just like a plan, there's always something that comes and throws a wrench in the plan. So here's what happened to our plan. We had about 20 of those 40-foot containers packed, 20, 40, the big ones, full of everything, tons of duffel bags with lots of uniforms and we send that stuff separate from other things. And they're all packed, and customs have to come and they have to seal it, agriculture, the same thing, kind of like when you're flying. We've got all these packed, sealed, ready for someone to pick them up and take them to the airfield or port or wherever. And it was like a tsunami. It just starts raining like crazy, and it rained so bad and it floods so bad. The containers were floating down the street. Everything went everywhere. And so now we needed new containers. We had to unpack everything in the containers. We had to wash everything in the container, get them dry. And there's just not a lot of washing facilities. And somehow or another, because we planned early enough originally, we were able to jump through hoops, but we still had to have good relationships, to make it all work. So that's my planning story, one of them, and that's my contingency story. And the things that I like to do when I'm planning, I'm a visual person, but I also like digital. So I use multiple ways. So, there's things like Calendly. You've got your different calendars, if you're on, right now I'm on my MacBook, and then I have my PC, and then I also have, my iPhone, and then I have Outlook and Google and all these different calendars and people sending you things. And the gentleman who created Calendly, he was, a genius, because that is a way for you to synchronize most of those. Tools that I use that help me when I'm planning, the blocking, the buffers, and the time limits. Those are things that I've kind of developed, and some I gained from bosses that I had. So when I say blocking, when you're doing your daily calendar or your weekly calendar, it's kind of good to have some white space in there, some space for you to be able to do whatever it is that you need to do or want to do without anyone interrupting you. So when I was in an office and I was a program manager for a lot of contracts. So a lot of people have a lot of questions and seem like you're starting to get repeat questions. So that became a trend. Well, I was a strategic planner and I had a lot of reports that went up to really high levels, and I'm talking to a lot of people about this, but at the same time, I work operationally and tactically. I have to understand what's going on and how to request the different contracts or purchases. And I have to be able to explain that to new people so that when they submit things to our office, they're done well. So when I made our calendar, there's like a way that we do it for the week, kind of like a framework for the week. On Tuesdays, I have these meetings that I have to go to from, higher. On Wednesday, I want the afternoon blocked off, so that I can do my admin and catch up. And then I plan for that. And then I put a buffer. If I have a meeting that's really long and really hectic, and I don't want to go right into another meeting, I block off a buffer. If I went on vacation and I come back to work, I come back a day early. That next day is my buffer, because one, something could happen, or two, you just kind of want to wind down between going from really hectic and fast into the next thing that's super hectic and fast. And one of the other things that I started doing, a lot of my jobs were just long hours, long days. And so I would say emails, how am I going to deal with the email? Your emails are coming in all day, not doing all emails all day. I've had to create group emails sometimes so that things that I kept being CC'd on that everyone in the office needs to look at, but I don't need to see every one of them, push them into the group email. Then I can take time, sit down, read the group emails, and respond. I promise you, when you start blocking off things and putting buffers and maybe creating different groups, setting out times and routines, people will respond to those. They will adjust, And the people you work for will always come by. And so you're always going to defer to them when you need to. So one of the good things I would do on a Sunday, I didn't like working on Sunday, but I didn't like going to work on Monday and feeling like when I walked in the door, getting hit with a water hose. So I would go to work on Sunday for 2 hours. Whatever I got done in 2 hours, that's all I did. And for the 2 hours, I looked at everything that we had on our calendar for the week. I looked at my personal calendar that went with work. I looked at things that I may have coming up, in the long range or other plans and things that I want to do. And I want to synchronize all that. And then I make myself a little to-do list for the next day. And you always have to know that you can delete things and you want to review your time. So these things are not set in stone. Next slide, please. Okay. So if you learn to plan, and if you are a planner, if you plan, well, we all have to plan certain things, but I think I'm going to just say, hey, right now, I just graduated from school and I've been really hectic, but I had this long, nice transition plan. It was a few years from the time I left the Army to get the goal job, and I actually did it. But now I need to get myself back to a more structured person because I'm going to have a job. I got to go to work Monday through Friday again. I haven't done that in a while. So these 2 months, I'm doing the same things I'm telling you. I got to see what's important, set up a structure, set up a time. And when you plan these benefits here, one, when you notice that people are always late and sometimes people don't have enough things, or, things are just not adequate. A lot of times it happens at the hair salon, right? You go there and they've got 90 people scheduled for 5 appointments, right? And then they're just trying to make a lot of money. But when you're looking at your time, you want an appointment. So then you decide, do you want to go to the person who does hair this way, or you go to the one who manages their time? Well, they're there on time. And time management and planning well, it helps with your credibility. It helps you to be seen as a professional. And it also, the reason it helps to reduce anxiety is because by planning, blocking, you leave yourself enough time. And to add on to the buffering, you don't want to plan things back to back, hour to hour. I think they do that on Zoom, right? You have a meeting at 5 o'clock, you have a meeting at 6 o'clock, you barely have time to take care of yourself and grab a bite to eat. But if I know I have to go somewhere and it's going to take me 30 minutes to drive there, I'm probably going to put an hour and a half of travel time into my plan. That's the way I like to go. I don't like being late and I don't like feeling rushed. And then you get there and you can't park and something happens. And then sometimes things happen that you just can't control. So we want to, look at how we're planning and how we're going to make things better for ourselves and how we're going to be intentional, get in the workplace, and then just show who the best person we are. What I'd like to see is a lot of people, if you can take some of these ideas and, kind of mull them around and then say, how can I better, keep myself organized? What is one thing that I need to work on? I think there's some creativity that we can use as well. You can say, if I want to have less time, I don't really want to cook every day, so you meal plan. If you meal plan, you have to step back and take time to do the meals. But when you plan the meals and you cook them all on one day, now when the week comes along, what are the benefits from that? 1, you have food already prepared. 2, you're less likely to grab something that you shouldn't eat. So if you're in a fitness regimen, that works. And it gets you into a routine. And then maybe you can use your family or your friends or someone who's doing something similar, people you live with. Okay, let's break these different things down. And on Tuesday, can you go do this and I'll go do that. And then one thing I like to do, I try not to have myself leaving the house for appointments and going to the cleaner. Sometimes I'd rather just do all of those, chores, tasks all in one day. Knock them out. Some people might rather go a couple of times. When you plan, you give yourself that flexibility. I like to plan so that I leave space. That way, when something comes up, a boss, a friend, a family member, and they come pull, I'm like, okay, maybe I can fit it in, or I can drop everything, but I know I already have thought about the things that I need to do. And another thing I'd like to mention is, as you move up the ladder, a lot of people, well, this is for a lot of people, this is for anything. Delegation is probably one of the most important tools that you'll learn how to do. And a lot of people, we're so busy trying to get things done, it's hard to step back. So how do you delegate? Maybe do some practice plans in your office. See what the different tasks do. It doesn't have to be something that has a critical, timeline, but we get it. And then now you're looking at the strengths of your team, and you can see where there's vulnerabilities, see who's good at this and who's good at that. And now you can allow someone else to do the task, because in order for us to manage bigger things or lead bigger, you lead the people, you manage the processes and all the different resources. But if you're going to be a senior or an executive leader, you've got to manage and lead and also see how those things interrelate to each other and towards the goals and the vision of the organization. So delegating is extremely important. Shouldn't be one point of failure anywhere unless you are a one person, company or something like that. So it's very important to think about delegation, exercising that muscle. So when we are looking at planning, it becomes habit forming. Once you get better at, certain things on your schedule, they happen almost automatically, and then your time, it makes you more efficient, makes you more productive. You stop taking as much time to do certain things, or you can see where you've been wasting time. You get down, watch TV for 3 or 4 hours. Oh, I forgot I had to study for whatever exam. Or if you're like me, oh, wow, I think I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. Something's got to go. I have too much on my schedule, and it's just too much. So you have to really plan and prioritize, and make your life good. I think I'm pretty much, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I still have about 30 minutes. Just wanted to share some of the insight. I hope that there's things in there that people enjoyed or were able to take away.
Hey, Kimberlynn, I think that was a really great presentation, and you said a lot of things that I saw in myself, right? And then some things that I think maybe happened to me, but I didn't know what they actually were, like what was happening. So you talked about the frozen middle, and I never heard that term until today, but I feel like there were times in my career where I was kind of stuck in that frozen middle. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because depending on when somebody may have joined us, right, how can you know for sure if you're part of that frozen middle? What are some of the things to recognize?
Thank you so much, Tia, because now I get to speak on a part that I actually didn't say earlier. When you feel like your career is stagnating, you'll know that it's stagnating. Other people are, being promoted. They're getting more resources put to them. They're, if your boss is not really tending to the needs or the desires, the reason I really started this presentation is I want people to go to work with that in mind, planning that this is what I want to do. I actually put a job description, and it's for an executive director at some university. I pulled it off yesterday on LinkedIn. And a lot of these plans and concepts that I spoke of today are in that job description. Pick the job that you want. Look at the skills that are in that job. And that list of those 15 or however many skills that I had that are desired of middle managers, once you're adapting those and you're meeting the networks and all the different people, you have mentors, you also need a sponsor. You need people who are in positions who can help you, and don't stay one place forever. The way the world is set up now, when we're at work, we should be working towards the next whatever it is, right? You got to find out what it is, have someone help you figure it out, and you go and learn those skills on that next higher level job. And when you plan to get on your boss's calendar to discuss your performance this quarter because they haven't asked you to come in, you can present that plan and those things to them. That's how the plan helps you. that it gives you, a little bit more visibility, gives you a little bit more, actually get agency over our own careers.
I like that. Get agency over our own careers. And I'm going to read some of the comments. And I saw one kind of zoom by a little while ago, but there's one that's up right now. Someone said, and you said this too, don't just go to work, right? You want to have a plan. You want to be valuable. Absolutely. So here's one of the comments. So Rhonda said, I hear that a contingency plan is a must. I didn't always focus on that even after having children because a lot of us were brought up to lean on our faith. But even Jesus had a treasurer. Okay.
Yeah, that was good, Rhonda. Thank you. Yep. We do. And the more you trust in people and the more you trust in systems, you think they're going to help you. And I'm not giving you a pessimistic. We're just going to encourage our own path the way we want it to go. Right. Even myself, what is networking? Okay, let's talk about this whole networking thing, because everyone hears networking, and what exactly is a network? Well, a lot of us, I think we're afraid there's going to be some rejection in attempting to connect with people. So you have to kind of not let that deter you. But then also we get busy. And I had gone to a presentation one time, and this gentleman, he said, pull down some people you haven't talked to in a while. Reach back out to them. Put it in an Excel spreadsheet. The last time you spoke to them, you put some reminders on your calendars, right? And now you help foster the relationships, the visibility that's going to help you. Volunteer, join professional organizations. And another thing is, if you want to advance at work, you can't just come to work and do your job. Working hard will not get you to the top. You need to be able to work hard. You need to be able to work well. The people who are winning, they're winning because the people like them. They're winning because they're in the right places. When they go golfing, go golf. You don't have to know how to golf. Just show up.
That's good. I like that because, I remember years ago, I worked with somebody who they smoked cigarettes, and the manager smoked cigarettes, and they were not the hardest worker. They were not the best worker. And so we were very surprised when they were the one promoted, but this was the person that was always outside smoking cigarettes on their break with all the managers. So I can totally see how that happened. It's not always what you do, how well you do it. It's who you know. So for somebody, you mentioned, and I love this, people get the glamorous roles, right? And there's some people get the glamorous roles, the glamorous projects. Then there's some people who get what's assigned, like the housekeeper roles, like plan the meeting, plan the party, that type of thing. And then we have the quiet people, right? So what would you suggest for the quiet people who are maybe very self-conscious, very shy? What types of things, like maybe networking just isn't going to be their thing. They just really don't know how and are afraid to put themselves out there. What types of things might you suggest for those folks?
Well, people are shy, but I don't think they're nonverbal or non-interactive. So there tends to be someone at work that seems to be a little bit more open, or find a commonality, or just be inquisitive of someone in a different section or different, if you look on your company's website and they have someone wrote a white paper and you're really into the white paper, go ask a question. Or you're really good at something. This is how you get people, you draw them in, because you want to provide value. You don't want to always seem like you're asking for things. Just stop by someone's desk. Oh, it's really nice. I'm new here, or I was just wanting to know what do you do? Or what's been the best thing that you liked about the job? It doesn't have to be a long conversation. You just got to show up. You have to participate, right? There's, you've got different, kind of categories and different things. What has been found with, what was called the model minority, Asian people tend to have the higher scores and they get really good jobs, but their culture tends to be more of a quiet and more reserved. And then you look up and they're not really being put in robust numbers. They're not really getting leadership positions. So then you look up and you're like, oh, but I was going to work and I was doing, that's why we get our paychecks, right? I had a boss told me that one time. That's kind of hurtful, you know? You're like, well, hey, look, someone asked for an award. He's like, an award for what? You've only done your job. That's why you get a paycheck. So to build these networks, it's part of work. Things you need to do. How can you teach a class? Go to a speech class, give a presentation, maybe ask someone, can you attend meetings that you don't normally, because when you're in certain roles, you're not seeing the big picture. Just show up.
That makes sense. So Rhonda also says, so some moderate socializing is key in the workplace, and absolutely. And I think a lot of us want to just kind of go in, keep our heads down, stay out of trouble, but we end up doing ourselves a disservice because, to your point, just hard work is just not enough. So that does make a lot of sense. So for the quiet people, you got to start definitely you got to start somewhere. Just make the initiative, start with one person, feel your way through, right?
Well, here's the thing, they like hardworking people now.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, because you're helping get things done. But
Right.
we're just not going to put you in front of anyone. You're not being groomed. You know, you hear the term people are being groomed or being carried along. And sometimes the people who will help you along are the people you least expect.
That's true.
You don't know who you will meet or who wants to invest in you or who would, show you. There have been times I've been at work and I went to talk to someone about something and he asked me a question. Next thing you know, I got a whole project out of it. And then I got to talk to people at the Pentagon. It was crazy. But it was just because I was able to answer these questions. And then that young man had worked for my big boss before. So he had influence for me. And that's how, there's one of the former CEOs, she did a TED Talk, you have got to find sponsors, people in the room, because when these decisions are being made, someone's saying, Tia, that's my girl, Tia. She's amazing. And it's because Tia and I, we go skiing all the time or we go to happy hour together. I like Tia. She's really good. Well, when I have to look at Tia and I have to look at Lisa, I don't even know Lisa. Right. How invested is Lisa in our organization? Because how can you sell the organization? Now, you don't have to sell it for your whole life if that's not what you want. But if you own the organization, you would want people representing your organization to be committed and wanting to sell the organization.
Right. So you have to be the champion. Also, it's not enough to go to work. You kind of have to champion your company or your specific cause in the organization. I can definitely see that. That makes sense. You said some really great things. You mentioned about everyone needs to find a way to show value. And I was just curious, what do you think, like when it comes to just, people thinking about their careers and organizing their careers, what might be the top 2 ways or top even 2 or 3 ways over the course of your career that you were able to kind of turn things around and show value and have like really great outcomes?
One of them was the last one when I was explaining about the contracts and having to set that schedule up. It was towards the end of my Army career. I probably shouldn't have gone. I was sent to Kuwait. And I had been given, there was this 1-week course that does requirements, like what is it that you want for a contract? But then I get over there and I realized that I've got to run this whole management office. And oh, by the way, once a week, there's this board and it's kind of like a Shark Tank. So that would make me the facilitator. As the facilitator, and then I have to understand the regulations because those signatories want to make sure. So basically, I wasn't a contract writer. I wasn't an authority. I had no authority, but I was almost the conduit. All these things were moving. And for 3 weeks, we work on every day. So I just kept working and working. And it was not well organized, or it wasn't organized in a way that my brain could understand it. And I have this thing where I like to push information out. And I like to always give my bosses things that they might ask me so that, one, they can see what I'm doing. Two, when performance time comes, I have every week, if I've been sending them all these things, then I have my own list of what I've been doing. And conversely, if you are a supervisor, if you have that sort of information coming to you regularly or quarterly, whatever your time is, then you will be better able to make an assessment of those who work for you, right? So what happened, I got over there and I sent an email out to everyone. I asked, for the distribution list, I'm here, I'm new. And then I just start on interviews. I kind of interview everyone. And so the way that I had set it up, it was the first time that it didn't matter what rank I had versus the role I had. And I had several bosses and I was in a high visibility, but I was just getting it done. And I had the creativity. The only thing I was limited by is there's like a lot of laws and rules about getting your software updated because I just had all these ideas. But by the time I left, then we realized we had to expand the team. And I was able to, so I made myself proficient, efficient, and then I was able to spread that throughout the whole network. So jumping in, figuring things out, and when someone gives you an opportunity and you don't know what to do, you still got to go for it, or else you might not get another opportunity.
I love that. You're right. Mm-hmm.
So that was one. And then one of the other ones, I'm kind of meticulous about processes and stuff. So that's why I like change management. And there was a point with the way that I did my supply, we had to do a lot of inventories, and there had been some issues with the inventories. Well, I signed for the whole inventory and then everyone else signs, below us. We just got a little creative. We use those little stickers that you can get in the store, like for the little sales that you have at your house. When you have a little garage sale, you got green stickers, orange stickers. We have 3 or 4 categories of equipment or office equipment, and we have to inventory regularly. So we just started color coding, almost like you do with design thinking and that. You have on your calendar, you can color code it. So I was able to use my ingenuity and organization skills, and then I'm pretty good about teaching people. So those are the things that kind of helped me. And now that I went to SMU and I was working on my MBA, I fell right into the same role. I ended up working with the coach for almost a year. She was amazing. And we started really slow because I did I planned a long transition from the Army. And I did 1 year just to relax and kind of recuperate. And then it turned into 18 months. And then I was looking for jobs. And then, like people say, on your faith, God, it was not happening the way I wanted it. I wanted to live in Dallas. I live in Dallas. Dallas is big. Why can't I find a job? I was in logistics. So people would send me messages on LinkedIn, really good jobs, but they always wanted me to move. So that let me know that, one, I'm employable, right, at a good job, but the ones it just wasn't working. And my brother lives here and he's successful. And he said, well, Dallas is who you know. You have to know people or who knows you. I wanted to see, I kind of did a test on myself to see about veterans and also just job search, because I wanted to be able to help people who were struggling. And I heard some of my friends had struggled, and I wanted to see what the struggle felt like and why was it a struggle. And I struggled for a while looking for a job, what I wanted here in Dallas. And I didn't want to go back to the government. I didn't want to work. My dad was in the Army and I was in the Army. I wanted to see if I could do what I did there, or what the things I'm really good at, like it with fewer boundaries in the civilian world, in corporate America. So I went to SMU, I took executive MBA, got in there and got going. And we have coaches, and my coach was amazing. And she just got me going, and I interviewed, and I would have told you I wanted to be a change management consultant. And then I didn't know that coming straight out of the Army and not having had another job, that's what I could do. And I found my job. But the coach introduces me to other people, and then other people helped me. And now I'm kind of like a peer counselor. I give people tips about how to, go here. And then, this is how I met Danette. Just, speaking to people and sharing. And now you know me. And if you need something, then I can help you. Or I can, or now what I want to do is take all this information and a lot of this energy I have and put it into people so they have it when they start work, as opposed to after they realize what happened or should have happened.
Right. I love that. I love that. And that's what makes CDPD so wonderful. So we have lots of success stories like yours and people who came in and they shared some information and they were able to, help other people, but also get promoted and get all of these opportunities. So I love what you said, Kimberlynn. Proficient, be efficient. And then when the opportunity comes, whether you know how to do it or not, you should just take it. Take the opportunity, go for it. And I think this is what is so key about when we tell people to build their network. That's who you know. Because sometimes you may not have a clue about how to do something, how to get something off the ground. But if you have a good network, somebody in that network is going to know somebody or know something and can help get you started. So I love it. It all seems to come back full circle. I've got a bunch more questions, but I'm not going to ask all my questions.
Okay.
I don't think that's fair. But I feel like there was one more, and I have notes written all over here, Kimberlynn, about
I'm not in a rush. We haven't even hit an hour yet. So
Okay, good. Okay, good. Hold on.
you know what? When I first started, I did all my research. I know the topic. And I was like, because normally I just talk from the cuff and I'm like, I can't really tell where I'm at with my slides, but I'm glad you asked some of the questions because you really hit on some things that I had planned to speak on, but I kind of just forgot about them.
No, it was really good. This is a question that I have for you, and I'm very curious because, like I told you earlier today, right? So I supported a readiness team, right? So we supported all the change management. We worked all of those projects. And I find that I could never seem to shut my brain off, right?
Mhm.
Like everything was a plan. And I had the hardest time, like when I would wake up Saturday morning, there's no work, Saturday, Sunday, I'm not working. I felt like I needed to have a plan for my day, even if my day was just going to be loafing. And if I didn't have a plan, if I didn't know what I was going to watch, it just drove me nuts. And it took me a while to kind of dial that back. But do you have a problem like kind of turning off that planning mode and just being spontaneous and enjoying yourself?
Let's see. So this is where the blocking and then the time limits, right? So right now I'm on a 2-month time limit because I have to get back, into the mode that I needed to be in. Right. But then also I need to have some, still have a life, right? So now that I'm not in the military, I'm going to give myself, but I'll tell you how I turn my brain off because my brain doesn't stop. First of all, I didn't even mention this part. We can't just plan all the time. If that's not your job, do it as an exercise. And I try not to talk about a lot of military things as far as the lingo that I use to explain everything, but there's some really good concepts we plan, right? So there's 1/3, 2/3 rule. If someone else has to do or execute the plan, or we need to discuss it, then you probably should spend 1/3 of it to start the planning and let people know it's coming. But to turn my brain off, I put a notepad next to the bed, and if I come up with some crazy idea, I just write it down and go to sleep. Okay. I'm not going to stress over things, and I do like my things visual. So I may not necessarily have a I like Mural has a whiteboard. I like my whiteboard. I want to see it. I want it written down. And that's when if I start my week a certain way, then I know already what's coming. And you have to give yourself some time. You can't I'm not. And the funny thing is, as much as I'm talking about planning, I'm not OCD. I'm just giving myself boundaries, right? I'm giving myself kind of like a visual for today. Like tomorrow, when I get up tomorrow, I decided tomorrow I will probably, do some work in the garage or whatever. And then maybe another day I'll do something else. And like today's been a very busy networking type day. I had lunch with one of my classmates. I'm speaking with you. And then there's a business of golf networking event tonight that they're having with the National Black MBA Association. So I got to go to that too, because I don't want to miss the opportunity. And, and you don't know, I like to hear other people's stories. And so what I feel right now is my plan to go to school, my plan to stick with only getting the type of job that I wanted, it worked. So how do we we're going to always have limitations. And I think you find your person or your mentor, your friend, your family member, your spouse, the person who can balance that in you and let them keep you on track or pull you away when they need to.
Some kind of like accountability partner. Like I don't, and it's funny because I wasn't always this way, but I realized sometimes that it just came a thing like during the time doing, excuse me, the type of work that I've been doing, just that constant planning and always trying to, do forward thinking, think ahead and all the contingencies, what might happen. And so I'm learning slowly but surely to dial it back and, and just to kind of be easy. So it is a process, but no, this was really great. I enjoyed it so much. So we do have some questions that we ask all of our guests, Kimberlynn. So I'm going to ask you some of these questions. Let me see here. One of the things I want to know is if you've ever been marginalized by others, and this is a question we ask all our guests here at CDPD, if you've ever been marginalized by others, and if so, in what way? But before you answer, I'm gonna just tell you why we asked this question. So we asked this question because there may be some people out there who have been marginalized, and sometimes when that occurs, we don't know what to do, we might get stuck. But we want people to understand that, hey, this is something that potentially happens to most people. And so we'd love to hear these stories. If you've been in that scenario, we'd love for you to share that.
So I spent an entire career in the military, so that's pretty much the whole thing. And, there are issues related to, like, I've got a couple different categories I fit in, Black, all that stuff. I felt more marginalized being a woman, but only from certain people. And the only time that it was a problem was because I had been isolated from a lot of people and it felt like a lot of extra pressure. It was almost like I was being pushed to see if I would break, and I almost broke. And that was one of the things, we're talking really vulnerable here. That was one of the things that I had to free myself from to go forward in this corporate career. Like, I'm really proud of myself right now, and not in a boastful way, because for a couple of years I didn't even want people to see me because there's like the kind of a gossipy thing that goes on, or you make a mistake or 2 or 3 mistakes and no one wants to just as a human being help you out, right? And the one thing I tell people here in the corporate space, if you get these types of conversations and information, have your mentors and your people. If things aren't going well, remove yourself from that situation if you can. It is okay to remove yourself. You just do not need to suffer. But I wasn't in a position where I could do that. But I will say that there were people there who were always looking out for me. And what helped me out was when my brother, because we're really close, and I finally emailed him and I was telling him, I kind of would like to quit. I've never really quit things, but I don't know if it's worth it. And he said, well, there's probably some young soldier there who needs someone to care about them. So if you look out for them, then don't worry about yourself. And I'm still talking to a lot of those people. A few people looked out for me, but I had people were like, oh, well, I got in trouble for getting into a verbal altercation with someone. But the person I got in the verbal altercation was nose to nose with me. So when no one went to hear that part, that I have a man in my face that I have more seniority, and I'm telling him to back up, and he's literally nose to nose with me. And so it ended up that I kept raising my voice, and he just would not back off. And so the leadership heard me raise my voice in the tent, and then I got written up for it. I was like, wow, I just can't catch a break, But wow. In spite of, in spite of that, you still are who you are. And then you just get up and you start all over again. And then people don't have power over you. I tried to, that was what that first year and a half was about, to free myself from a lot of the aggressiveness, of defensive aggressiveness that I had kind of taken on to survive in that environment. And that was about the only margin. A lot of things I'm talking about, I wasn't pushing front, but then sometimes I really was. So I had still a pretty good career. Mm-hmm. Carve your own path. You can carve your own path and be around people who care about you. But in this market that we're in, if it's not serving you, maybe you might need to not just jump out of the job, but you need to remove yourself. Go where you, like they say, go where you're celebrated. There are better people to work for. I actually had an interview like that. I was sitting there with these gentlemen, and they were extremely aggressive and challenging my resume. And then I pushed back. I said, well, what type of leadership development plan do you have? They didn't have one. I'm like, how many women do you have working in? I'm like, well, there was a friction. And then they actually wanted me to come back and interview again. I told them, no, thank you. I decided to take another route. So
right. Their loss. It was their loss, Kimberlynn, for sure. Absolutely. So this is one of the things I want to share with you. I don't know if you can see it, but it's looks like, well, someone, I don't know if it's Danette or someone else, but it says, this is exactly why we asked this question about marginalization, because your journey helped those young soldiers and is helping others as you share it right now. So we certainly thank you for your candor and your service, of course. Absolutely. This is really great.
Thank you. And the best thing about, people ask me, like, what were my best memories about the Army? When coming back from Afghanistan with all my soldiers, that's a major accomplishment. And then being able to, somebody helped me go to another school, like one of my bosses had to sign for it. Every one of the people that I was able to sign for who've got their masters, I'm sitting here watching them, still on Facebook with them. And I see that the little bit that I could impart in them. And when you see a spark in someone and they start getting their education and they start making bigger goals, you just get excited, And so now that that's behind me, I'm excited to go. I feel like I'm able to, go forward and contribute here. I love, talking with Annette and them. I don't even talk to her as much as other people, but I feel like I know her forever. So.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing. So we have one comment here. It says, that is brave to advocate for yourself during the interview process. Kudos. And I agree. And being brave enough to give that pushback, because I think during the interview process, you're kind of like, well, should I say anything? Hey, I want this job, or I need this job even. How far should I go? But I love the fact that you turn the tables on them, like, hey, well, what, how many women do you have? Do you have this process? So you kind of made them realize,
well, let me tell you,
need some work there.
Let me tell you what he actually said.
Uh-oh.
I'm looking at your resume. My CEO doesn't even have all these skills. There's no way you could have all these skills. And he's like, and I'm looking at you. It was a warehouse job. And I don't know if so you go to the interview, you got on a nice dress or a suit, right? You got on heels. He's like, you don't look like you would get comfortable in a boots or in a warehouse. I said, well, I don't know why, because 15 months in Iraq wearing body armor and that doing convoys every day, I wouldn't apply for the job if I didn't want to do it. So it wasn't like it wasn't aggressive, it wasn't rude, but right. I definitely pushed back because they were coming at me. They were, and I was at a job fair. I wasn't at their company. And there was like 4 guys on the other side of the table. I'm like, why are there so many? And one of the guys, he just was, I don't even know why he was there. He didn't know what was going on. So I was like, that was really interesting. And I had a mentor. She's like, well, you should take, I said, I'm not going to go interview with them again. I don't even want to work with them at all.
Right. That totally, it just ruined everything for you. I believe that.
But they saved me though. I found out up front.
That's true. That's true. And I'm glad you were in a position and in the mindset to not go back for that interview. You know what I mean? And that you just said, I deserve better. Right. And so you were able to move on. I love that. That's awesome.
Thank you. You're making me feel awesome. You got me feeling.
You are. It's nothing that your awesomeness is coming through and, in our conversation. So it's all you, my friend. Absolutely. So let me ask you our next question. So, this is a good one. And I'm excited to hear your answer because I think it's going to be pretty deep. So our question is, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self when you started your journey?
To go for it more. Go I'm the queen of perseverance. So a lot of things, I come out good on the end, but Lord have mercy, I've had to go through a lot of things a little bit harder. And when things were tough, I pulled away, and now there are people who probably could have been mentors to me or something. But if you start to feel self-conscious and a little bit ashamed or whatever that may be, you miss out. you really miss out. It's not that I was in a shell, but I think a lot of people are in that shell. You don't want your vulnerabilities to be seen. You don't want to see, and you almost don't know who you can trust. And I think social media has kind of eliminated a lot of that. It's helped out, but a lot of Black people don't do well when people say, call me. If somebody tells you to contact them after, every person you meet, you need to email them, you need to follow up with them, continue to follow up with them. And not only when you need something, if I knew that then, and if I knew that, if I'd had a little bit more understanding going into college, as a first generation, so just a little bit of kind of the things I'm helping these other veterans with, kind of giving you a lay of the land. And it's not going to be easy, but here are some suggestions, and this is what you're looking at, and then make your decision that way. So I would have been a little bit more informed, and I would have taken a little bit more chances, and I would have even though I'm outgoing, I didn't even participate as much as I could have in things in college and my first job. When I first came in the Army, it was a response to not finishing college. So it was just kind of the first couple of years, I didn't even really care, but I ended up going into a different job. I went to respiratory therapy school, and then I went to officer candidate. So I started making a lot of pivots to get me to where I wanted to be as I matured.
Got you. So you would have just put yourself out there more. Absolutely. I think a lot of people have that, same thing that they would tell their younger selves. I'm right there with you for sure. All right. So Kimberlynn, last question that I have, and hey guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in your chats or wherever you are looking at us, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, go ahead and please put them up, because I do have one more question. So maybe I'll just wait a second, right? Because Danette always says when she asks that last question, that's it. So anybody have any questions for Kimberlynn before we ask our last question? I'll give it a minute. Comments, questions, even let Kimberlynn feel that love, guys. This was a really great presentation.
Thank you. I felt
there were some comments going below, but I wasn't.
I read some of them. They were really good. I appreciate the comments. They were really paying attention when I was telling my soldier story.
They were, absolutely.
Oh, and that thing about jumping in when I said or doing more, and I guess to add to it or maybe clarify. Okay, so maybe your GPA is not the highest, but you can sell yourself other ways, right? You have other characteristics than, there may be someone else who will give you a chance, or there may be another avenue into the door instead of that hard. And men tend to, like they say, men tend not to see it and, I don't meet the criteria. Women tend to, I don't meet the criteria.
Yeah. There was a study, and a few people have touched on that in these series here, that women, they'll want to tick all of the boxes, or they just won't go for it. And then men are like, I don't have anything. I'm just going to go for it anyway because I'm awesome, right?
Right.
We need to be like men in that instance. We need to just be a little bit braver. Jump in, sure.
A little overconfident in yourself. They believe in, and so as my brother always tells me, always bet on you. Always bet on yourself. Always, no matter what. So that's it. I just wanted to, share. It's been great chatting with you all, and I hope people got something out of this.
Absolutely. So one last question, and maybe that was your answer, but I'm going to ask this anyway. What is one last thing that you would like to leave us with? What is that one last thing that you would like us to take away from everything you spoke about today? What is the one big thing that you want us to take with us?
I want you to be connected. I want you to be confident, and I want you to drive your own ship.
I like it. Connected, confident, drive your own ship. Absolutely. I love it. That's perfect. Now, if you have a moment to spend with us, there is a question.
Yes.
In the chat. Can you see that?
Yes. Oh, wow. Not to stereotype, but there is a manner in which we communicate that is a little bit abrasive. It's very direct, and it doesn't always go well. It doesn't translate well. And a lot of times there's not much patience and no nonsense. And then that's before you get to where you figure out if the person's just mean or not. That's just like, that's just regular. So what I've done is I used to take a project of trying to make a person that was either super shy or not really nice. In a few months, I'm going to make that person talk to me and be my friend. And it worked. So what I would say with the boss, what I did with one of my bosses, he told us he was very introverted in that. And one of my peers would say, well, he's not really communicating with us. He's not really telling us what to do. I said, I love that. I plan my own stuff. I do what I want. And then I just tell him this is what I'm doing. He tells me if it's working or not. I said, but I go sit on his couch once a week. Go visit her. Because what happens is it's our job to make our boss's job easier, to make our boss's job better. And if they're not abusing, find a way to figure out a connection and to get them to show that human side that you are. It's not lowering yourself to them. What I'm saying is go into her world and figure out what makes her tick, and just, and if nothing else, every week say, hey, this is what I would do once a week or every day if you wanted to. Hey, how are you doing today? I was just working on this. Can we chat? I was just wondering, how did you get here? Really make her feel good. People want to feel good. People want to know and figure out what's her character and what's her, the way she transmit her message.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Get on that calendar, kind of get some FaceTime with them if you can, and just let them know that you're working hard, and that gives you an opportunity to show your value to that, to that boss. So that's perfect. I love that advice.
No calendar on this one. Just drop in. This is not a calendar. This is a drop in, and tell them something you had an idea. And I think the bad thing about working for the military, and I've heard it a little bit about consulting, there are some jobs where it's not working for people who were prior military. It's not always going to make you feel good. There are not a lot of some people. I was like the cheerleader Army girl. I taught Zumba when I was a company commander. So that's just who I am. But I'm still strict. But I still going to teach Zumba, right? But then people are like, wait, man, they told me I was too direct. I was like, well, was I rude? No. Did I call you any names? No. What did I do? You're just so direct. So I was like, what? How are people receiving my message? And then when I'm dealing with my boss, I ended up winning my boss over. Eventually, just, hey, sir, what's going on? How's your kids? How's your wife? He's going to do hockey. You want to watch my hockey game? He said, sure, I'll come watch her.
That's cool. After that, you were in there for sure.
And do a good job, and give them, try not to, try to be a value add. And especially if you find a pain point for them, try to solve it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Kimberlynn, listen, you have been amazing. I'm so glad I got the opportunity to host to you today. I hope you come back. You're always welcome. So please, come back and visit us and share some more. Sure. So with that, I am going to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Rhonda says you are a very well-rounded individual. She loves it. Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Tia. Thank you, Danette, for having me. I got to think of something else to talk about next time. Anybody who wants to get in touch with me on LinkedIn, please do. Send me a message if you want to chit chat. I actually do Zooms with people every once in a while. You just want to talk, just hit me up.
All right, that's Kimberlynn Hunter. Guys, look for Kimberlynn Hunter on LinkedIn, all right? And I believe we'll probably be putting her information out there for you at some point today. So thank you, guys. Thanks again, Kimberlynn. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Stay blessed. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.